Hi students, this tutorial reviews exercise 3b, adding text, and we're going to also warp text just to get you a little bit more comfortable and familiar so that we can move on to some more advanced techniques in image editing. So go ahead and launch Photoshop and open up the correlating image that I had provided for you in JetNet, which is the sky photo for 3b. Open that one up. And as you can see, it's kind of an ominous sky photo, and I believe I got this from one of the stock photography sites. And be sure that you note that I will always get it from a free stock photography site. Those sites I have listed in the above modules or in the resources section of each module. You'll find stock photography sites. A lot of times it's free. A lot of times they ask you to cite the source. And also throughout projects, I really encourage you all to use your personal photos unless it's otherwise directed. So if I tell you to use the photo, then use the photo. So in this instance, use this photo. But if there's another photo that you prefer to use, of course, for another project and it's open, then please do so. So for this assignment, we open the sky photo provided, and what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and save it. So save it with your last name, underscore, and then you do Ex3b. And you can save this as a Photoshop document, PSD Photoshop document. Save it somewhere that you'll remember. Okay, and then the next thing we're going to do is, of course, you want to open up your layers panel. I don't see that readily available here, so that's something you want to have available to you. So layers, adjustments, and properties, great panels to have merged in a group. I always like to have them merged. Go ahead and unlock this background layer and it turns to layer 0. You can copy that with a Control J, Command J on the Mac. Go ahead and hide it. And then of course you can lock that too if you wish, or just go ahead and start working on that top layer. Okay, the next thing I want you to do is select the type tool. Find the T, select the type tool. We are going to enter type, but first we're going to choose a font. That's a sans serif font. That might mean like, something classic like Helvetica. You might also do Futura, Avenir, something of that nature. And then of course, I'm probably going to end up doing a more bold font for this exercise. Of course, I think if we choose 200, that might be a little big, but we'll have to see. So if I click here, it automatically enters in text. A lot of you might note that some of this text at 200 point seems rather small. If you check by going to your selection tool to get out of the text, if you go to image size, I did this in the previous version. If you note, this is at a resolution of 72. So of course, the text here is going to appear small at 200 point because we are at a 62 by 34 dimension file. If it was 300 pixels per inch, this would appear very, very small. You might not even be able to see it. So just keep note when you open and you start using text, your image size has everything to do with the size of the text and the way it looks and the point size, and you kind of have to adjust the size appropriately. And I think on my direction sheet, I had you do 30 point. You might want to bump that up to 200, if not 250 points. I'm going to go back in my type tool, triple click. It's a little small even here, so I might do 300 or even 400. I just want it to cover, for this exercise, may be rather large on, there we go. So for this exercise, I also want you to change the color. The color can be changed as long as you have it in the type tool. Select it, of course, choose the foreground. I want you to change it to something kind of, sometimes it might be interesting if you do something really bright. Say okay. That'll work. Okay, and I am just triple clicking to select that. So now I have Avenir Black at 600 points. I gave you some suggestions in the listing. Of course, choose whatever works to make it look nicely. I'm going to keep mine at Lorem Ipsum. You can also, but you can also type in I think I had 2019. So for those of you who want to experiment with something a little bit different, of course, then you might want to bump that down to 400, even 350 point. Still too small or too big. So what I'm looking for here is for you to choose to make some visual decisions. How you're defaulting in your picture to size, font, and what you type out. I'm open to whatever you type out. You can type out your name in this project also. I just want to see you follow along some of the actions that we're doing. That's most important to me. So I'll be checking for that in your file. So 2019 is what I kind of mentioned in the listing. And then I was going to work with Lorem Ipsum. That is Greek copy. If you haven't ever seen that before, Greek copy is placeholder copy many times for graphic designers. They use that as a placeholder. And when they're waiting for a writer to provide them with some copy, sometimes it's easier just to default to the Greek copy. And so it's become sort of a standard. And, pre-filled text ends up being an option in most of the Adobe programs now. Okay, so we provided a fill of yellow, and we have all of our sort of attributes applied for this text. So we're going to also highlight this, and we want to make sure that the text is aligned left. If we hover over here, it kind of tells you, I'm going to align mine left, and then that sort of moves it over. Looks like our bounding box may have went off. You can also just I want you to be aware of the alignment. So aligning it to the left. Okay. Drag the image, drag on the image to add your text box. I already did that, and I wrote the 2019 up here. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to adjust our text with 2 character panel edits. So if you look, we don't have the character panel up here. We're going to go to Window, Character. So using this text that we just added, I want to see 2 character panel edits. And so that could be anything. You could play around with that. Right now I defaulted to 75% of the horizontal scale. I'm going to go ahead and do 110. And you can see it really spreads out my copy quite a bit. But since it spread it out, I noticed there's a lot of space between characters. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust the kerning. I'm going to do it optically, and it kind of shrinks it a little bit. Excuse me. And then I'm probably going to, we can do an upper lowercase. That's also interesting. Not my favorite, but it is an attribute nonetheless. You can do underline. I want to see you apply at least 2 to 3 of these. It's important for you to get used to the character panel because it's used quite a bit. Okay. All right, so those edits are finished. And then next I want you to select the text layer. And that is by going to the selection tool or the move tool. This is the move tool. It's a selection in many other Adobe programs. I'm going to close the character panel now. And now I'm going to go to the layer. I want you to make sure that's selected, and then we're going to go ahead and type in or go to edit free transform. Okay, the great thing about free transform, I'm going to get these panels out of the way if I can. Hover them over here. And then they're not letting me close. I gotta close them. Close them, close them. There we go. Now I'm gonna hover. What's nice about the free transform is you can sort of change the text. You have the freedom to change it. Mine's going a little bit slow right now. And you can see I made it rather large. I'm just gonna do a Command Z, undo, undo. And if it will ask you if I want to confirm, I do not want to confirm it. So I'm gonna do a Command Z. Okay, some of the other things that you can do, edit free transform, is if you hover, you used to have to hold down scale. Now it just does it proportionately, so you don't have to worry about the proportionate scale part. If you hover just below, it gives you like a rotate symbol like that, like a two little curved arrow. You can then rotate with the free transform, as opposed to having to like find where the rotate tool is. Okay, so that's an easy, nice way to do that. The next thing is you can confirm that by changing tools. It'll just assume that you are confirming that change. Okay, and then, so I'm gonna go ahead and do this. I've confirmed the change. Now I'm gonna go back to my text tool, and it's still in a text format. I've highlighted it. And now I want to try, I want to warp, particularly warp. I had to open my window a little because that tool goes away if you have a small window. Let's see what happens. So I had to open it up just a little bit. So I want to go up to this little icon which says create warp text. Okay, it uses a faux bold style. Remove attribute and continue. I'm going to go ahead and just remove attribute and continue. And here's my warp text. You can do anything. I'm going to try wave for this one. It just kind of waves my text a little bit. And you know, you can bend it, you can distort it horizontally, vertically, you know, kind of interesting there. Okay, so I want you to play around with that and say okay. And then the next thing I want you to do is to modify the layer styles. If you go back to the layers panel, all you have to do is double click on the layer. Oops. The text layer, because we're going to adjust that too. So double click. I think it's that way. There we go. Double click on the layer, not the thumbnail. You can double click on the thumbnail if it is not text, if it's rasterized. So your layer style, I want you to experiment with at least 2 functions. And of course you can bevel and emboss, and you can do a drop shadow. And of course go in there and kind of mess around with some of the adjustments. Like you can see, make sure preview is checked so you can see what happens. It gives you a little, there's a preview here, and then you can see how that applies. So experiment with 2 of those and then say okay. And then I want you to go ahead and save this as your last name, exercise 3B. Do not flatten so I can see how you're working with it. And then I believe that would be it. So submit to JetNet submission link. I'll see you in the next video.